Welcome to Destination Staffordshire's webinar on using Google for small business. This webinar is in three parts, and this is part three. In parts one, we talked about taking control of your Google and of Google really to maximize the benefit to your business. And in part two, we talked about optimizing your Google business and digital presence. So that you are able to take control and understand what Google thinks of you, how Google presents you to its users, and to ensure that your Google presence and your digital presence is equal and the same across the board, and also, more importantly, follows the customer journey in order that you are best providing the results that users need as part of their customer journey to you. So in this part three, we're going to be talking about using some Google features to improve and refine your success. This is slightly more advanced, and it is really important that you have a few things in place before you start. If any of you have jumped straight on to part three of this webinar because you feel you want to crack on with some of the features, it might be very advisable to go back and watch part one and two first to give you the real foundations and building blocks to this last section or this last part to the webinar in order that you have taken the right steps to get to this point. It's really important to understand that in order to access any Google features at all, you are logged in all the time, that Google understands who you are and that you have control of all the features. So in the case of Google business listings, you needed to be able to be not only logged in, but also the owner and admin of that particular Google listing. And we talked in those parts one and two, how to do that and how to recover emails and how to claim businesses. But also to access in more detail some of the other Google features we'll talk about in a minute, it's important that you have the right coding on your website. So your webmaster will have likely done this already, but it's really important that you understand that you need a piece of coding from Google to be attached to the top of your website page so that Google can then track the activity into your website, about your website, and within the website itself. So it's important that you've done that before you move on to this last third part of the webinar. So first of all, we're going to talk about using Google features effectively. Google have introduced something called Marketing Suite, and this is at the time of recording. It is worth noting that Google turned 20 in September 2018, and during this celebratory time, they've been introducing new features, additions to features, changing features, and offers to small business. So make sure that you stay ahead of the game and follow blogs, Google information about what is available to small businesses. They usually provide these features for free, at least at the entry level, and provide lots of extremely useful and potentially reforming information in your business. So Google Marketing Suite is where you will find all the activity around your analytics, your Google Search Console, and your advertising. Now, you may not fully understand what I've just said at that point, but it's really important that just to understand that this Google Marketing Suite is simply the central point where all your key features are available for you. And also, Google have started joining these things up in order that you and they can start to connect between the two. One of the advantages would be that at the point, if you ever decided to set up Google Ads for your business, Google would already understand the activity to your website, around your website, and in your website, and will offer advice and ideas about how best to get results in your Google advertising. So the first one that we're going to discuss in detail is something called Google Search Console. Now, Google Search Console has replaced Google Webmaster Tools. We mentioned this briefly in part two of this webinar. And, excuse me, Google Search Console really originally was for webmasters themselves. So, i.e. those Google experts that manage and look at your own website. It could be your web designer who does everything, or just a webmaster, that somebody who looks after the technical side of your website. Google Console or Google Search Console is a feature that gives you information on how Google views your website, i.e., what Google thinks of your website. Does it have errors on it? How many times it clicks through, or people click through to the website? What search terms are used? What are the key links in the website? And it also connects up to Google Analytics, which is important. Google Search Console is free to use, but you do need to verify a property first. Your property is your website. That's what they call it, because it is your property. So if you haven't got that done yet, you need to go to Search Console, and it will ask you to type in a URL. So type in the home address of your website, or the website you want to check, and then it will tell you if this is verified or not. If it isn't verified, click verify, and it will bring up a box giving you the detailed and clear instructions to do that. And that will include adding some code, it's HTML code, to the front page of your website. And again, this might be something your webmaster needs to do. It's not difficult. It should take only a couple of minutes. It shouldn't cost you much money or any money. And you can all you need to do is copy and paste that information, or screen grab that information and send it over to your webmaster. Once he has verified your property, or she has verified your property for you, then you should start getting data within about 48 to 72 hours. So that is the first thing that you need to do. Once you have a verified property, you'll be able to pop onto Search Console at any time to check in on your website, to check if anything's changed, how things are moving, progressing as a result of your other optimization work that you're doing within Google. It's also really worth popping onto Google Search Console when you have added a new page to your website or made a change to your website, to make sure that there are no errors. So the first thing it will do is it will check for broken links and errors on your website. These are things that don't load properly, that there are links within the website that are now broken, that there are areas of the website that Google is struggling to crawl over. So Google uses a crawling mechanism to search or sift through any particular website. And if it's really struggling because of an error within that page, then it will tell you this is invaluable, because not only is it very difficult to detect if there's a problem yourself any other way, because you will have visited pages repeatedly and they might load quite quickly because they're cached in your system. You need to understand what a user is experiencing. And if, for example, you have an error on your booking page and you can't understand why you're not getting bookings, then this is really at the heart of the matter. And again, you would refer that error across to your webmaster, who would fix that for you. It would also check, as part of this kind of checking for problems part of Google Search Console, the download speed of your website. Google really rates download speed, i.e. how quickly a website loads on both mobiles and on desktops and laptops. Because for them, they, as we've said previously, they are looking to provide high quality, rich content results as a result of searches that users are making. So it wants only to deliver high quality results to its users, and therefore if your website takes a while to load up, then it will downgrade your website. You will lose ranking, lose trust, and Google will stop showing your website as a result, even if everything else is great. It's worth noting here that with a lot of modern websites which have huge, large pictures on them, sometimes this can slow down speed. It's also worth noting that if you have added various new plugins to your website, so you have added a new booking system, or you've added a new online availability system, or maybe a new gallery or video onto your website. Sometimes this can not only affect other plugins on your website and cause them to suddenly go slow, or they can create a slowness within your website as well. So it's really crucial that you check this download speed every time you make a major change on your website, or every time you add a new picture or a new video. And there are ways of making images look amazing on websites, but actually minimizing the file size of that image, and therefore again speeding up the download. And of course, Google is aware that the majority of content that they provide is viewed on mobile phones or tablets, on handheld devices, and they may well be using 3 or 4G. Then they need that speed in order to deliver good results. You will also be able to check the click-through of or clicks through to your website. So this is, as a result of searches made on the internet, how many times was your website clicked onto as a result of any particular searches? And it will give you those searches. And so this really gives you in-depth data, because you might have thought, well, I know that people search for 2-bedroom cottages in the Staffordshire Peak District, but actually it might be a slightly different search term, and that's not where you're getting your clicks from. You might be getting your clicks from a surprising search, a search that is slightly different from the ones you've been checking, or is worded in a way that you personally would never use. But don't forget, this is about your users and potential customers, not what you do. So it's really important you understand where those clicks are coming from, and then generally the general trajectory of those clicks, and whether you're increasing those over time, or whether the impressions versus clicks is going up, so the ratio is improving. So they will also give you impression figures. These impression figures are the amount of times people have put a search in and your website is in and amongst the results, as in comparison to how many times they were actually clicked. So obviously, if you have thousands of impressions, but you only get clicked a few times, then you might start to ask yourself, what is it about that preview on the Google results page that is putting off people from clicking through? So is it because the Google business listing, for example, is inaccurate or unclear or has an unattractive picture? Or is it because it's difficult to understand from the first few lines of your metadata, and the preview on the results page is unclear or doesn't have a lovely call to action but says something a little bit dull? So this gives you the opportunity to then go back and refine those results on Google. So check through that click through and check through those impressions. It will also give you a number of indexed pages on your website. Indexed pages are the multiple pages that Google recognizes as part of your website. In general, it likes to have lots of index pages because it likes to have lots of new and interesting and quality information on which to crawl over. So if somebody has made a search and Google is crawling over lots of websites to provide a result, if your website has lots of indexed quality pages that gives them plenty to get their teeth into in order to provide it as a result for a search, then index page numbers are important. One way you might like to do this, and it might be that you don't have a very dense website because there's not a lot you need to tell people, you could decide to start writing a blog. So a blog that's within like an in-website blog, and you have a blog page, will provide an index page per post. And it will give you the opportunity to continue to add new, interesting, rich content within your website that Google can chew over each time that it searches for your website. So it's a really powerful way of improving the quality of your website and also how updated your website is, as well as creating interesting content and engaging content that you can then share over your other marketing platforms and channels. So that's Google Console, previously known as Webmaster Tools. At the time of recording of this webinar, you can still access both Webmaster Tools and Search Console, and you can flick between the two platforms. But in, I think, another 6 to 8 weeks, you will only be able to get Search Console. So just to give you that heads up. Okay, so the next Google feature that we can talk about is something called Google Trends. Google Trends is an open platform to anybody, and it really does do what it says on the tin. It gives you the opportunity to understand what the trends are, the search trends and the topic trends are within Google. So it gives you the opportunity to put in a keyword or a key phrase. You can search per country, so you might want to search in UK only initially, unless you get a lot of overseas visitors, and you can search for things that are particular to you, so keywords or phrases that are particular to you, to see how they are viewed on Google. Is it a trending topic? Is it a common topic? What are the related topics to that? Is it something that is popular, not very popular? But it also gives you the opportunity to start to see where trends are headed on Google. So it might be that 10 years ago, nobody ever searched for the word glamping, but obviously now glamping may well be a very popular topic. If you were in the business of expanding yours and you decided you wanted to start including glamping in your business, knowing these trends and understanding what sort of searches and topics are being discussed and increasing on Google really gives you an idea about how to evolve your business. But more importantly, it helps you understand even better about the search terms and keywords used in searches for your type of business. It's important to know how words and phrases are evolving. You might have set the SEO on your website a year ago, and you might feel really satisfied that you're getting good traffic and good conversion, and you might feel happy with that. But it's worth keeping an eye on these things to see if things are changing, if you need to add in a new keyword, if you need to create a new phrase, maybe you need to use new expressions on in your content and on your website, in line with some of these trends, in order that you are still in the place where increased traffic is. So Google Trends is hugely interesting and important, and is something you can access at any time to do extra research or any refining of your marketing. And advertising is another Google feature. Now, this webinar isn't going to go into the full details of advertising because it's a webinar on its own, but Google advertising at the time of recording has come in for a little bit of criticism, because it is sometimes seen that Google advertising is somehow circumventing the natural organic search process that humans like to see on Google. So, for example, if you put in a search term, you are searching for a particular thing or experience or product, and you put that into Google expecting to find that product, but then the first 3 results that you get are adverts for a related product but not the one you wanted, then it can be frustrating for the user, because you might end up clicking through to a place where you don't want to be, or you might feel misinformed. It's not that these results are misinformed people, but they're paying to override the Google search and pretend that they're talking about product A when in fact they sell the related product B. So that's the first thing to note. Be wise and be careful. However, Google's information features and analytics is so huge and so powerful that if you do want to spend money on Google, then they will give you very accurate data, information about how best to advertise, how best to get return on investment. And going back to Google Marketing Suite, there will be lots of advice and help. One of the things many small businesses do is pay for somebody to do their Google ads for them, and they have a budget within their marketing budget, and they're happy to spend it because they feel that they're getting the conversions as a result. That's absolutely fine. But what you are absolutely need to be aware of is that you have done the research around the Google Trends, your Google Search console, the keywords. You need to make sure that all the information on the internet is already up to date, because if you either rely on a third party to advertise without giving them direction, or you give them direction and advertise on Google, but then actually your TripAdvisor logo is different from your Facebook, your photos are of bad quality, your website isn't tagged well, and it doesn't give a good customer journey because your website is clunky, or it loads slowly, or it has broken links or errors within it, then you will have wasted that money, because someone will click through, quickly realize that it's not where they want to be and click straight off, but you will still be charged for that click through. So it's really important that you're clear on that. If, however, you have watched several of these webinars, watched the first 2 parts of this Google webinar, and feel confident that you've put the homework in, the groundwork in, the foundations are there, and you have the budget, then by all means go ahead and try some Google advertising. Okay, so in this third part of Google and using Google for your business, we're going to concentrate quite a lot on analytics, because analytics is a free tool that provides invaluable data on your website, how people behave once they arrive at your website, and more importantly, if, when, and how they convert. And when we talk about convert or conversions, what we mean is at the point they then book, download a booking form, book, pay for something, click through to the booking area, whatever you consider to be the point at which a customer moves from being a browser to a customer. So first of all, it's important to verify again your website. So in order for you to be on Google Analytics, again, you need that piece of coding on the front page of your website in order that Google can crawl within it, have a good look in it, and then produce the data for you in a readable way. So if you're not sure if this is possible or if this has happened on your website, you need to go back to your webmaster and simply ask them, if you are verified for Google Analytics, and more importantly, how you log in and access it. Hopefully, if they've done their job correctly, you are able to access your analytics through your own Google account. There should be nothing that is confusing about that. And also a word of caution, make sure that you are the owner administrator of those analytics and not just a user. So if you're asking your webmaster to do that, can you make sure you specify that you want to be a manager or admin rather than just a user, because otherwise you won't get access to the full range of information. So when you get onto analytics, they've changed recently. At the time of recording, they have given you a slightly simplified version of the data and how it's presented in order to make it slightly more user-friendly. There will be parts of Google Analytics that we're not going to discuss today because they're very detailed and require lots of focus. But what we're going to do is simply go through the main key areas that will give you plenty of information to be going on with and to help develop and improve your business. So the first thing that you will see on the left-hand side is a menu list of all the different areas you can study within your website. The first one is like an overall traffic picture and an overview. And when you look at that, it will immediately, as you click onto Google Analytics, it will give you graphs and data about the traffic, the overall traffic picture within your website. So what's coming into your website. And it will give you 2 different types of information. It will give you the number of sessions on your website. So a session is a moment or a time when a user came onto your website and used it. So it could be that person A visited your website 5 times in one day. That would count as 5 sessions. Or it could be that 5 users visited your website once in a day, and therefore that would also be 5 sessions. And then it will also give you the user figures. So you could have 100 sessions with 95 users, which would indicate to you that there were a few users that used the website multiple times. And this just gives you a basic understanding of the difference between sessions and users. And you will, at the top right-hand side of any of the data pages that you click onto, you will get the opportunity to set the timeline. So it will give you the figures over the last 7 days, over the last day, over the last month, over the last 90 days, or you can in fact put in a specific period of time. So if, for example, you have been doing a very specific targeted marketing campaign over a particular period, then you could check that period. So you could start the week before the campaign started to the end date, and you would then be able to assess what impact that marketing or that targeted marketing strategy or plan or activity had on your website over that period of time. So it gives you invaluable data. And of course, you can hop onto Google Analytics at any time, so you can keep an eye on things. The other interesting one to look at down on the left-hand side is, I should just say that at this overview place, at this overview area on this front page of your Google, it will give you users and sessions, but it will also give you repeat visitors and single-use visitors. It will give you times of day or times of week that your website was most popular. And you can imagine from a marketing point of view just how invaluable this kind of information is to make sure that you are targeting your information at a time when your potential users are around. So down on the left-hand side then, you might want to look at acquisition. Now, acquisition is, as it sounds, it is where you acquire your users from. And it will give you lots of information about whether they have come from a social media platform, whether they have come direct, i.e. they saw your website address on a poster or on a Facebook page or somewhere else, and they either clicked through or they typed into their browser the exact URL they wanted to look at, or it will give you kind of an organic. So that is, they were searching on the internet, came across you and clicked into you. So it will give you quite a lot of overall data, and then within each of those sections it will allow you to drill down. So initially, for example, it will give you the figures on your social acquisitions, and then if you click through to that, it will then give you more detail about exactly which social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. And again, it's really interesting to note how particular campaigns you've been running on those social media platforms have performed. Did you get lots of people through? But within that, it also gives you details of how people behaved once they were acquired on your website. So, for example, it will give you the average time they stayed on your website, the average number of pages they viewed within that website, so where they traveled or how they traveled, and it will also give you a bounce rate. Now, a bounce rate is something that people worry about a lot, but actually bounce rates are important to note, but also do vary, and you don't need to get overly anxious about them at this stage. What you want to see is that you have a bounce rate that's not too high, but a bounce rate of 50% is not terrible. That doesn't mean, oh, I'm losing half my users immediately. What it means is that might be natural wastage anyway, given that people search through the internet trillions of times a month. So you can check about the bounce rate. Obviously, if you have pages or you have users that come in and there's 100% bounce rate all the time, then that would lead you to think, right, I have run a Facebook campaign, I'm sending them to this particular page on my website, but there's 100% bounce rate off immediately. And also the length, you would have a 100% bounce rate, but if they've spent 3 minutes on the website, then maybe that's okay. Maybe they've got what they needed. But if they have spent almost no seconds on that page and there's 100% bounce rate, you can start to think to yourself, maybe that campaign is sending them to the wrong page. Maybe that page itself isn't very interesting or doesn't give them the information they were promised as part of the social media campaign. So you can start to understand how that builds. You could also look at audience. So audience is, as it says on the tin, it will give you information about gender, location, ages, and sometimes you can even get more detailed information about occupations and that kind of thing as well. So some lifestyle stuff as well. And again, really interesting if you think you've got a 50-50 split and it turns out you've got, a lot more women than men on your site. Do you need to change the content to make it more attractive, or do you need to change it so that you're attracting more men? It all depends on what business outcome you're looking for. Then one of the most interesting sections of analytics is the behavior, because that not only tells you, rather like acquisition, where people came into. So it will say that out of all your pages, 20% of them landed on the front page. It will then show you in a flowchart how, if you look at behavior flow, it will show you how they traveled through, and then there'll be a red drop off where they came off. So you will be able to see that on average, your people are coming in on the front page, then they head to the bedroom pictures, then they head to the booking page, and then they seem to drop off. And you could notice that you aren't getting as many bookings as you thought. So go ahead, back to those pages, have a little look. Is there something that's putting them off? Are the bedroom pictures a bit below par? Or are they loading slowly? Or is the booking page a little bit ambiguous? Is it not clear? Are you not giving them the opportunity to do, for example, a live availability check, for example? So where you go from now, I think we've explained all the way through this analytics, is each little bit of data allows you the opportunity to go back to your website and refine and improve over a period of time to make sure that that customer journey is as fruitful as possible, i.e. people come through and place their bookings or buy their tickets, and your business improves as a result. So in part 3, we have talked about some of the key features that Google offers you for free. We've talked about Google Search Console, the overall marketing suite. We've talked about Google Analytics. We've talked about Google Trends, and all the opportunities that those features give you, even at the basic level of usage, to improve your business, improve your marketing, refine what you're doing, and help build a better future for yourself. Thank you.